Hey there, my wedding planning friends, and welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for clicking on my picture. If this is your first time on my channel, I'm Emily Summer. I'm a wedding and event planner in Montana, and I make weekly videos giving you all the best tips and tricks to help you plan your wedding. So today we're going to talk all about wedding day timelines. So I'm a super nerd, and timelines are probably one of my favorite parts about wedding planning, and chances are if you're watching this video you probably don't feel the same way. So I'm going to try and make this as straightforward and as simple and easy as possible for you so that you can build your wedding day timeline and hopefully not be super stressed about it. So there's a couple of things that I want to address before we dive into the actual creation of the timeline. There's a lot of factors that go into creating your wedding day timeline. So there isn't really a formula or an outline that's going to work for everybody. So as I'm going through this today, I'm just going to give you sort of parameters and guidelines that'll help you in making the decisions that you need to make in order to make your wedding day timeline, and then you can kind of adjust from there for what's going to work for you specifically. So to start off, typically the average wedding day, so this is from the time that you're arriving on your venue and like your photography coverage starts, or just before your ceremony to the last song of the night, is on average about 6 hours total. So that's where the bulk of your vendors will be booked for. So when you're booking your vendors and talking about hours for their packages and all of that, make sure you're booking at least 6 hours for the majority of them. Most photographers will start at 6 hours. Some will go 8, 10, 12 hours depending on if you have multiple locations, how much photography coverage you want to have, and again, all those factors that go into that. So we're just going to start with our 6 hour parameter, and then so I find it easy to, obviously you want to start from the beginning of the day and work your way through and kind of mapping things out, but I find it easiest to start sort of from the middle or the end and then work your way back when it comes to finding out how much time you'll need to set up, how much time you need to get ready with hair and makeup and that sort of thing. So just for the purpose of this video, let's say that you are having a ceremony start time at 5 p.m. So that's going to be our kind of parameter that we're going to use today to work backwards and forwards. So if you are having a ceremony start time at 5 p.m., whether you are getting ready on-site or off-site is something that you'll want to figure out early on so that you can factor in travel time to your venue and any extra buffer time you might need if you're going to do photos at a different location before you get to your venue, or if you want to plan for photos at the venue. Those are all decisions that you want to make that will factor into those start times. So first look, if you choose to do a first look, and I'm going to do a video all about first looks as well. I feel like that's something that people are so split on, 50-50 on do we do one, do we not do one. So I'll be doing a video on that, so keep your eye out for that. But if you choose to do a first look, if you're unfamiliar with what a first look is, this is a time before your ceremony, so before you walk down the aisle, where you and your partner will see each other for the first time, and it's documented by your photographer. So if you're choosing to do a first look, typically this happens 2 hours before your ceremony start time. So if you were having your ceremony at 5, you'd want to do your first look by 3 p.m. Of course, you can do this sooner than 3 p.m. if you'd like. However, 2 hours is usually plenty of time, and in that way you don't have to rush getting your hair and makeup done, and then you're still pretty fresh for the ceremony and you have a little bit of time to do touch-ups before then. If you have your first look 2 hours before, that means you need to be ready and in your wedding dress and all those getting ready photos done prior to 3 p.m. So if you are getting ready on site, this is fairly easy. If you're having your hair and makeup artist come to your venue to get ready and your bridesmaids are there, then you don't have to factor in any extra travel times. You don't have to figure out, okay, am I going to have all my bridesmaids get ready at a different location and then travel in their dresses to the venue. You can just get ready here, your photographer can document that, and then as long as you're ready by 3 p.m., if you're taking photos beforehand, you'll probably want your bridesmaids to be dressed and ready by 3 as well, so that they're in their dresses and ready in those getting ready photos. So that way you can kind of tell everybody to be ready by 3 p.m. and we won't have to worry about any bridal party, you know, missing a dress or running behind and delaying everything else. So moving backwards from then, obviously you'd want all of your hair and makeup done prior to 3 p.m. and we want to give, I like to give like a 45-minute buffer, 30 to 45 minutes before that even, so that your photographer has time to take photos of just the bride. So just you, if you were the bride, bridal portraits with your bouquet, with your hair and makeup. And it's just a really nice opportunity to be able to really document the details of this dress that you spent so much money on and just really feel like the center of attention for a few minutes without having to do it in front of a bunch of people. So if you are going to do some bridal portraits before the first look, then you would want to move that back and make sure that your hair and makeup and your dress is on and everything by 2:15, 2:30, so that you have that time before your first look to get those photos done. If you choose to not do a first look, then you will want to plan to be in your dress about an hour or an hour and a half before the ceremony, and I would recommend, if you have the ability to do so, wait until you get to your ceremony venue to put your dress on, if that is an option. That way you don't have to worry about sitting in it, driving in it, traveling in it, whatever, you know, if you're going to have, depending on what the fabric of the dress is, you don't want to worry about having any wrinkles or if it's really hot out, having any like sweat marks or anything like that prior to getting to the ceremony. So if that's an option for you, factor in travel time so that you will arrive to your venue, your ceremony venue, about an hour, hour and a half before your ceremony, and put your dress on then. If you're not doing any bridal party photos beforehand, or if you're just going to do a few, like maybe you and your gal's getting ready, and if you have a second shooter, they can document the groom and groomsmen getting ready. You want to make sure that everyone's ready at least 45 minutes beforehand if you're not doing the fully scheduled bridal party photos right before the ceremony. If you're saving those for cocktail hour after the ceremony, make sure that your bridal party is ready 45 minutes beforehand and on site 45 minutes before the ceremony time. I also will factor in lining up the bridal party ready to go, walk down the aisle 10 minutes before the ceremony time. So right now we've got everybody, for the sake of this video, let's say you're doing a first look. So right now what we've got in our timeline is you are going to be completely dressed in your dress, hair and makeup done by 2:30 p.m. Then you will do your bridal portraits, some getting ready photos. There's probably plenty of time for the photographer to hop over to the boys or to your partner, or if they have a second shooter, this is when they would go over there and document their getting ready photos prior to the first look. And then at 3 p.m. you have your first look. So that means that both you and your partner are completely ready for photos. You have a selection, a location selected, and you two and your photographer will go out and do your first look. Typically this will last around 30 minutes or so. Some photographers will want to do it a little bit longer, some can do it a lot shorter, and depending on how many photos you're trying to get done before your ceremony will determine how long you have for this, for your first look and for photos in general prior to the ceremony. So first look will be done at 3:30. All of your bridal party, bridesmaids, groomsmen, everyone at this point is completely ready. When you have a first look, the nice thing is that everybody's ready, everybody's there, and you can bust out a lot of your photos beforehand. So this would be a great time to take some more bridal party photos. So you can do full bridal party, you can do you and your bridesmaids, and you can do groom and groomsmen, and that way those photos are all done, so you don't have to take up that big of a chunk of time after your ceremony. So from 3:30 to 4:15, 4:30, this is when you would do all those photos. And then I always say 30 minutes before the ceremony start time, which is also the time that your guests will start to arrive, is when the whole bridal party is hidden in your, if you have like a suite, a getting ready room at your ceremony site, some place where you can all go and be hidden, and that way you can kind of relax, drink water, do makeup touch-ups, anything that you need to do before the ceremony time. I'll do that 30 minutes before the ceremony. So from 4:30 to 5, you're done with photos, you're touching up your makeup, you're drinking your water, you're reading over your vows, whatever you need to do to get yourself ready for the ceremony is going to happen at that time. And then 10 minutes before 5, we will get everybody lined up for the bridal party or for the processional, and 5 o'clock start time, go time. So leading up to all of this getting ready, what else needs to be on your timeline? if you have a wedding coordinator, this is where they super come in handy, as they will be kind of dealing with all of those scheduled times before then while you're getting ready. So this is things like when the DJ is going to arrive, when the caterers will arrive, when the cake is going to be delivered, when the flowers are going to be delivered. Those sorts of things are all going to be happening while you're getting ready. So if you don't have a wedding coordinator, make sure those times are confirmed and decided at least 2 weeks prior to your wedding day, so that you don't have to stress about it, and confirm those, follow up with those times with all of your vendors so that you know that they're ready to go, and then you don't have to worry about it. So those things will all be falling into place while you're getting ready. And then when it comes to figuring out how much time you need to get ready, this is when when you need to work backwards. So if you're going to have everyone getting ready at 2:30, and say you have yourself plus 4 bridesmaids, you want to factor in probably about 1.5 to 2 hours for your hair and makeup, and then about 45 minutes to an hour per bridesmaid that is getting professional hair and makeup done. So you'll add in all those times, and that will give you your start time for when you want to make sure that you have hair and makeup started, so that you will be done by the time that you need to be done. So jumping back to the ceremony, typically a ceremony will last 20 to 30 minutes. Sometimes they will go an hour, depending on the type of ceremony that you're having. And this is just something to discuss with whoever is officiating your wedding and how long they anticipate that happening. If you're going to have people that are doing any special readings or musical performances or anything like that during your ceremony, that's obviously going to extend the time a bit. So just talk to your officiant, see whether they're sitting with that, and that will help you determine how much time to allot for your ceremony. And then when your ceremony is over, you'll have a cocktail hour typically, and this can be the full entire 60 minutes for a cocktail hour, or if you want to join your guests during cocktail hour, that's just fine. Just make sure that you are scheduling enough time prior to the ceremony to have photos done so that you can leave early if that's something that you want to do. Typically, cocktail hour is the time that is set aside to get all of your photos done. So usually this is bride and groom portraits, this will be bridal party photos, and this will be family photos. Then after cocktail hour, if you choose to do a grand entrance, so this is just an announced entrance into your reception, this will happen after that hour mark. And so you will be announced into your reception, and at this point you can either go straight into dinner or you can go straight into your first dance. I've had clients do both. I think they both work very well. So you can choose whether to do dinner immediately or do your first dance. That's totally up to you. So then typically we will do toasts while the guests are finishing eating. So if it's a buffet line, we'll wait until that last table has gone through the line, and then while they're finishing food is when we'll start the toasts. This way you don't have a whole lot of lag time where people are like sitting around and waiting, okay, what's next, like getting bored, and then you're not feeling like you have to rush people through the buffet line, or people are like worried about making noise while they are eating while toasts are going on. So typically we'll give about 45 minutes to 1.5 hours total for dinner time, and that includes the start of toasts. So usually at about the 45-minute mark is when you can start doing toasts, and I always say to not leave longer than 20 to 30 minutes for toast. After 30 minutes, people don't want to be sitting there listening to speeches for much longer than that. Usually maid of honor, best man, and then parents or fathers of either the bride or groom will like to make a toast at this time. So 4 to 5 is perfect when it comes to toasts. Try not to exceed over that, although it is totally up to you for whoever you want to have give toasts at your wedding and how long you want that to be. I will just say after about 30 minutes, your guests are going to get pretty restless. So then after toasts, the remaining items to be done are your first dance if you didn't do it when you entered your reception, father-daughter dance if you plan to do that, mother-son dance if you plan to do that, your cake cutting, and bouquet and garter toss. So there's a few ways to go about this. I will say the majority of the time after toasts we will go into cake cutting and then into the first dance, father-daughter, mother-son dance. The reason for this is that at most venues, if you are sitting inside for dinner, if you have all of your guests in an inside location or inside of a tent, and that is the same place that your cake is going to be, and then you are going to be doing dancing outside or in a different spot, this way everyone can stay where they're at. Maybe some people will get up and walk over to the dessert table, but you're not trying to get everyone outside to watch your first dance and the parent dances, and then back inside for the cake cutting. I try and do everything all at once in one location so that you're not having to bounce people back and forth. I also like to do the cake cutting before the first dance so that once you have started doing those dances and you can open up the dance floor to other people, the DJ will be working very hard to get people out onto the dance floor and keeping that energy high, and I don't like to cut that off to go back inside or to go somewhere else and direct attention away from the dance floor to do a cake cutting. It just kind of, it ruins that vibe and that flow that they're working towards to get the party started, basically. So I like to do the cake cutting beforehand. And then you have that time of toast for people to kind of digest their dinner, and then they're a little bit closer to being ready for dessert by the end of that. Get your cake cutting out of the way, and then you go into your first dance. Typically, right after the first dance will be father-daughter dance, and then mother-son dance after that. And then at this point, you can choose whether to do your bouquet and garter toss immediately after that and just get all of those things out of the way, and then you can have your open dance floor party time for the rest of the night and not have to worry about it. Or you can just get into dancing if you feel like people are antsy, if toast ran long, if dinner ran long, and you're just ready to like hit that dance floor and get your guests out onto the dance floor. You can save the bouquet and the garter toss for later in the evening. So that's totally up to you whether you want to do it right away or wait until a little bit later. Again, you're going to be faced with the decision of like stopping the dance floor or interrupting that dance floor to do the bouquet and garter toss. But sometimes it's nice because if there's a lull, if you guys have been dancing for a couple hours and people are starting to get tired, or you know, everyone's frequenting the bar a little bit more often, sometimes that's a good placeholder to put in things like that too and kind of get the energy back up and get the attraction back onto the dance floor, especially when you are having a wedding in the summer where it's really nice and warm and people are really enjoying the outdoors and not necessarily ready to be dancing yet, especially in a place like Montana when it stays light out until like 10 o'clock at night in the summer and people aren't really like trying to boogie on the dance floor too hard until it gets a little bit darker. So you can kind of use those items as a way to fill in space too. So that's totally up to you, and that's something you can talk to your DJ about as well and kind of get their opinion on based on your overall timeline for the evening. So after that, then you just have your open dance floor unless you have any other things planned like a shoe game or any other dances, musical performances, anything like that. Then at that point, you just have to figure out if you want to do a grand exit. So whether this is a sparkler exit or any sort of staged exit that you want documented and photographed before you have to be out of your venue. So at that point, you're ready to go. You just want to make sure that you have a plan in place. If you don't have somebody cleaning up for you, like a design team or planner that has people coming to help tear down for you, you want to make sure that you have assignments designated to friends and family that are going to be packing them for you. Whew. How does that feel? There's a lot that goes into planning your wedding day timeline, and like I said, there's a lot of factors to be considered, and this will vary based on, you know, every couple. But hopefully this will give you an idea of how to schedule things out. Make sure that you are also giving good padding in between things. We talked about that a little bit, like giving travel time, making sure that you have extra time in between things like your toast and your first dance. Typically dances will take a total of like 5 minutes, but I will factor in 15 to 20 minutes just for those times, just so that if we're running late a little bit to get to the first dance, it doesn't screw up the whole rest of the night, and same goes for other events. So give yourself some padding time when you're scheduling out events. Don't just go one thing to the next, to the next, to the next, or else when you start running behind early on in the day, it's going to screw up everything after that. So keep that in mind, and timelines don't have to be as scary as they seem. Hopefully you found this video helpful. If you did, please like and subscribe and get weekly videos on wedding planning tips and advice, and we'll see you next week.